What up, everybody, and welcome back. It is that time of week again. It is Wednesday, one of my favorite times of the week. We get a chance to do our weekly fantasy football show. This is Stat Lines Matter. We are here weekly every night at 9 o'clock with me, Anthony, and Mark Stewart. Mark Stewart is not with us tonight, so we will keep on soldiering on. Anthony, how goes it?
Hey, Rob, it's a pleasure to be here as always, man. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, man. I mean, come on now. What would the show be without the NFL guru? Before we get started, I want to let everybody know that Stat Lines Matter is a weekly sports podcast. We put out content on Spotify, YouTube, and also Apple Podcasts. So please be sure to hit that like, subscribe button on all of those platforms. During this show, please mash that like button. It helps us out a lot. And be sure to follow the show on all our social media platforms. That's Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Please hit that follow button. Anthony, how'd you make out last week?
Week 9 is a tough week. It was a lot of bye weeks. Thankfully, a lot of our advice got a lot of people through, including myself. It was okay. It could have been worse.
Yeah, the bye weeks had me. I had Dak was out, Nick Chubb was out, and both my defenses were out. The defenses of the 49ers and the Cowboys. So I was in bad shape. I still almost pulled it out, but no cigar this time. So it was a rough weekend. In DFS, it was kind of rough again. It had some, I played college. College didn't go so well. I won the night slate, the early slate. I didn't win, and then the NFL was going terribly until Kenneth Walker came in with those 2 touchdowns in the second half and saved me from an awful week to just a not so good week. So I'm all in all, I feel fortunate to have survived last week with not the financial hardship that it looked like I was heading into.
For sure. We definitely had a few guys come through for us. Cordell Patterson came through big for me.
Oh, you played him?
Oh yeah, I played him.
Oh, he had 44 yards, I believe, on 13 carries. Just two touchdowns is what pushed him over. But man,
that's what he does.
That's pretty.
Yeah,
that's
let it go.
That's awesome. I mean, hey, look, I don't care how you get them. As long as you get them.
Yeah,
if winning fantasy football games is all about touchdowns, I mean, that's basically what it boils down to. Is if your guy's getting in the end zone. I mean, if you had Mixon last week, you got all the money. You won.
Oh, geez, yeah, Mixon crushed me in one of my leagues last week.
Sure, and it crushed my Tyler Boyd play. So yeah, I had him in literally every single lineup. So that didn't work out so well. So if you guys played Tyler Boyd, courtesy of Rob Hunter, I owe you some better plays this week. And I promise, if I don't deliver, I will send each of you $100,000. Just send me this, and I will send each of you $100K. Okay, that's another reason to watch the show. You can get a free $100K if my plays don't work. Okay. All right. So, hey, Anthony, you ready to get into the plays of the week? I mean, get into some of these matchups.
Man, that's brass. But yeah, no, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do this. I'm a little nervous now.
Right. And before we get started, once again, I want to let you guys know this is the Stat Lines Matter weekly fantasy football show. Please hit the like. Please hit the subscribe button. Submit your questions, and we will get them on, and we will answer them for you. So our first matchup is Cleveland versus Miami. We got a 48.5 over/under. Looks like Miami is favored. Anthony, break it down for us, man. Tell us what you like. Give us some secret sauce in this matchup to help us to help me gain the edge. I want it for myself.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. Yeah, before we get into it, let me just remind everybody that when we break this down, I do it more for season long. I do everything based on a half-point PPR system, mainly for the redraft and dynasty leagues. Rob's going to cover the DFS plays for you guys. And so let's get into it. We're going to start off with the fantasy relevant players on the Cleveland side of the ball. At the running back position, we got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Now, look, Chubb has been he'll get the chance to get plenty of good work in this game. He's had less than 15 touches only once this season. Hunt, meanwhile, kind of remains capped at 15 touches, though he's really only dipped below that in a couple of outlier weeks, making him a pretty okay flex play if you need to squeak him into your lineup. Jacoby Brissett behind the helm, as we inch towards his final games as a starter in this league, he'll actually have a chance to do something here, which will be pretty nice to see. Miami's pass defense is actually one of the worst in the league, believe it or not. And so we should see plenty of good action out of this game. Amari Cooper, one of his primary targets. Look, he can get pretty blippy and disappear some weeks for no explicable reason. That's why I've always kind of tended to shy away from investing in too many Cooper shares myself. But if you did, you should be glad this week. He should get a ton of production here in this one. Buyer beware. He does tend. Donovan People-Jones. This is guy DPJ. He's one of my sneaky plays for the week. We'll get into him a little bit more later. And David Njoku also up there. Now look, he's still a little bit banged up with the ankle. Some conflicting reports coming out of the Browns camp, and his projected availability. It looks like the coach is saying that he's still day to day at this point. He says that he can play. We'll see how it plays out. If he doesn't go, then I'm definitely dialing up any shares I have of Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah.
How about you, Rob? Do you like any of these guys for DFS?
I love Jacoby Brissett in tournaments. His salary is at 5.4K. And he's facing, like you mentioned earlier, one of the worst pass defenses in the league. They're actually 32nd, giving up the most fantasy DraftKings fantasy points per game. And if you guys are new to fantasy football, when you're playing tournaments, you generally want to look at 4X, and that's 4X the salary. So for Jacoby Brissett, you're looking for close to probably 22 points. He's averaging 15 points a game right now. So when you start to look at, if you can extrapolate that out and go, okay, well, if he's playing the worst defense and his average is 15, it's not that far of a stretch to add maybe 5 to 7 points to that, to his average. So, and when you're looking at game script, you're looking for, at least for me, you're looking for, if you think about game script, you want in fantasy football, particularly at the quarterback and the receivers position, for the game at a minimum to be back and forth, or not a minimum, the maximum to be back and forth, or to be behind. You don't want to be ahead by too much because if it's a team like obviously the Cleveland Browns, they run the ball a lot, then Chubb's going to get a lot of the work. So Jacoby Brissett is a guy that I'm definitely going to have in a couple of lineups. I have some shares of him. He's coming in at 1.5% projected ownership in tournaments. So that's the type of leverage that you're looking for when you start playing these large field tournaments. So Jacoby Brissett is definitely a guy I'm looking at. And if you had mentioned Amari Cooper earlier at 6.5K, he's definitely another guy that I'm going to have in a lot of lineups. Just looking at his targets, he's in 4 games out of this year. In four games this season, he's gotten double-digit targets. He's projected to have 7% ownership, and so and I want to reemphasize that the game is 48.5 points. And if you know anything about, if you've watched the Dolphins this season, the Dolphins are going to be the ones that are pushing the pace, pushing the scoring in this game, which will probably game script, which will probably leave Chubb out of the game script if it's go how they're supposed to go on paper. So I like Jacoby Brissett a lot. I like Njoku, as you were mentioning earlier, at 4.1K. I think he can, if he plays, he's a shoot. I think, can I use guarantee? I don't know. I can use guarantee, but I think he can get 16 points. So those are the guys that I'm looking forward to playing on the away side, on the Cleveland side. How do you see the Miami side breaking down?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're going to start off in the Miami backfield, and this one's kind of like a heavyweight competition to me. And so I'm going to break this down like a heavyweight boxing match here between Mostert and Wilson, with Wilson coming in, threatening some of those carries. So in the Miami backfield, we have a heavyweight battle here tonight. We've got risky Raheem Mostert versus just a guy, Jeff Wilson Jr. They're going to come out swinging. They're going to split touches out of the backfield. Who's going to get the TD in this one? Will it be Mostert before he shatters like a glass jaw, or will Wilson wiggle his way in? Be sure to tune in for this one, folks. Behind the helm, we have Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's in. Between Mostert and Wilson, we'll see how this one goes. Wilson coming in last week, it didn't have a lot of time with the team yet, but obviously knew Mike McDaniel's system, and so definitely threatened a lot of carries from Mostert. We're going to see how this one breaks down. They might start shifting Wilson's way here a little bit. He was slithering out there pretty good. At the quarterback position, Tua has been on fire. He's eclipsed 250 yards passing in 5 of the 7 games he's played in this season. He's been great. The Browns have not been magnificent against the pass themselves, but they normally rely on their incredible pass rush and, to limit their opponents. And so, with Tua, we'll see how that plays out. Most teams usually beat them on the ground, as they usually give up 4.6 yards a carry, 123.1 yards per game. Miami's not really known for the running game, so we'll see how this goes. But how can you stop Hill and Waddle? right? When it comes to Hill and Waddle, we have to throw out conventional metrics. Nobody has an answer to their quickly. So with Myles Garrett coming in, I don't really anticipate to see too much of an impact there. I'd say continue to trust his monsters in Hill and Waddle for sure. Um, as far as any other intangible fantasy positions, I'm not really liking a lot of the plays outside of Hill, Waddle, and then maybe one of the two out of the backfield. You can kind of pick your poison. For the spotlight in this game, I kind of see this actually going to the Cleveland side of the ball. Like I think, like last week, I think Miami's going to win the game, but it's going to be one of the other players on the other side of the ball getting kind of the spotlight for the game. For me, this goes between kind of Chubb, Cooper, and my dark horse DPJ. But I think Chubb's going to get going early and often. He's going to get keep them in the game early based on the running game alone. They're going to try to slow down the Miami offense, keep them off the field, I think. So I actually like Chubb to get the opportunity to run rampant here. He gets the spotlight for me. What do you think, bud?
Tua's price is still up under 7K. He's at 6.7. So this is he's still playable, but again, the last two games that he's played, he's thrown 6 touchdowns against Detroit and obviously against the Bears most recently. So the question just becomes: do you think if you're playing Tua, do you think that he's gonna be able to repeat that performance, and do you think that Cleveland is going to be able to match the scoring? That's really what it comes down to. At 6.7K, there are a couple of guys I like a little bit better, but I don't mind a couple of shares of Tua in some lower level tournaments. Or if your bankroll is like that, then you can play him in the $1 million maker if you like. I mean, I don't see at 6.7K, he's producing like a quarterback that at least is supposed to be around 7.2, 7.3, 7.3K. So I think he's playable, but he's not somebody that I'm going to be trying to jam into my lineups. The run game, he had 9 carries for Mostert, 9 carries for Wilson. Both of them scored a touchdown. That's an avoid in DFS. You're really looking for guys who are going to obviously have the lion's share of the backfield. And I think right now Tyreek Hill is unplayable at 9.1K because again we're still looking for that 4X. So we're looking for that at least 36 points in order for you to just get into cash. Getting to the level where you're cashing. That's 36 points, a little bit above 36 points. He hasn't done that since week 2 against the Ravens, and we all remember that game. He's had some really good performances, but relative to price, he's at a season all-time high at 9.1K. So I think and obviously in season long, you'll never sit him, but in DFS at 9.1K, he's somebody that I probably like. Again, I won't be trying to push in the lineups. I won't be trying to jam him in the lineup. So again, like you said earlier, I think the other side of the ball, the Cleveland spot, is where you'll find the most cost opportunity, and that's where you'll find me spending a pretty good amount of my salary. Do we have a question? No. Okay.
No, I think we're good to roll right into the next one. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and post them in the comments, guys, as you're watching this live. As we air this live, and if you have any questions, we'll put it right up on the screen and read it out and answer it right here, folks. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And and trust me, like I said, I'm giving 100K away if my plays don't pay. So you got to watch the show to get the 100K, man. Come on, you can't lose.
Man, I didn't know you had that kind of money. Why you been holding out on me?
Hey, look, I'm trying to get viewership. The next matchup we have is Minnesota Buffalo, which is going to be that game on the surface is definitely got 2 marquee teams going at it. You got Kirk Cousins and Josh Allen. Over under here is not marquee at 43.5, and the Buffalo's favored by 3.5. Anthony, take it away. What do you see?
Yeah, I kind of see what the over/under is pointing out, that I think that this is going to be a little bit more of a defensive game than we all might like, especially for fantasy purposes. And so, Dalvin Cook, he's been great. He's only finished outside the top 24 this season. Both times were the only times that he actually faced a decent defense this season. And so I'm not looking for a ton out of him. Proceed with caution. Kirk Cousins, Buffalo ranks near the top in every defensive category, guys. And so when it comes to Captain Kirk, and I know everybody was gushing over that video that aired last week on the plane with the dancing, and congratulations, dude. freaking jacked. Nobody knew who it was at first. We all thought it was a linebacker. You look a little bit closer. Holy crap, that's Kirk Cousins. Absolutely ripped. It was crazy. But I don't think that's going to really get it done for him in this matchup here. In all honesty, I wouldn't start anyone outside of Jefferson if you could help it. I'm just going to leave it with Justin Jefferson from the Minnesota side of the ball and call it good. What's his price point like for DFS? Is he someone you're looking to play?
No, 8.8K. No way. No, sir. There are a lot of nice plays beneath that. But I mean, if there was anybody that you were going to play, I could see maybe Hawkinson, but Hawkinson for a tight end, his salary is at 5.3K. That's really expensive for this matchup. And the Bills have been good all the way around. If they did have a weak point, it would be receivers. They're 12th in fantasy points given up per game. So Justin Jefferson, but at 8.8K, I don't see it. It's not the same situation as it was last week. We predicted that he would have a good game. He did have a good game, but it's week to week in daily fantasy, and with the price increase in this matchup, and it's away. That's a tough place, and not to mention the Bills are coming off a loss. I think they're going to be coming out here looking to hang a number and looking to probably play one of their best games this season. So the Minnesota side of the ball is really tough to get to. Dalvin Cook is $8,000. He's only had 20 carries 3 times a game. And not over. It's just been 20 3 times. And when you get up into that 8K range, you're looking for guys that get the ball 20 to 25 times a game. So that's just, look, hey, if you want to roster him, you'll definitely have leverage on the field. He'll probably be pretty low owned. But on the Minnesota side, to me, it's an avoid all the way across.
Yeah, for sure. The Bills secondary has been pretty banged up, but they actually might be getting Tre'Davious White back this week. Even if they do, I don't really see him shadowing Justin Jefferson out the gate. That should probably go to Dane Jackson, he's been fantastic in coverage this season. I think he's allowing a QBR of less than 70, if I remember correctly, off the top of my head. And so, I still feel like Jefferson's going to break free a few times, but it's not a great matchup for fantasy purposes. And, on the other side of the ball, it's kind of a hard one to call. You got Josh Allen banged up now with the sprained elbow, right? And so how's that going to affect the team? We were looking at reports today, and in fact, right before the show, and, he didn't practice. Josh Allen didn't practice today. And, if he doesn't go, it's going to be Case Keenum, who's absolutely capable, but how's the split work going to go? For me, I kind of see Devin Singletary being leaned on a little bit more in this game. At least I would hope. Right? Even if Josh Allen does go, maybe he's a little bit more prone to check the ball down a little bit since he's a little banged up. I really like Devin Singletary as a solid play this week. Nyheim Hines, maybe he's going to come a little bit more online. He holds some intrigue here based on what we were just talking about. As far as he might only be a desperation PPR play though. I wouldn't want to try to rush him or squeeze him into any kind of lineups. I'm not sure what his price point would be for like a DFS play, but did you know that Nyheim Hines is only 25 years old?
No, I did not.
I thought he was like 30. I thought he'd been around for like ever. It just feels that way, doesn't it? Feels like he was on the Colts.
Lamar Jackson's
one of the receivers. Yeah, for sure.
I didn't know
and
that.
So, yeah, and Stephon Diggs, he remains a must play. This is a revenge game for him. He's had 8 or more targets in all but one game this year. Meanwhile, Gabe Davis on the other side of the line, rather on the other side of the offensive line, he hasn't seen 8 targets yet this season at all. Period. And so he's kind of remains a boom bust play. Best to keep in your like flex position if you can. I wouldn't want to have to start him as a wide receiver too. If you can play him as a flex behind 2 legitimate wide receivers, that'd be fantastic. That's what you're more looking for. Because on his boom weeks, he wins you a week. And that's really what you want from your flex position. As far as the intangibles go, Isaiah McKenzie, Dawson Knox, and their production they've not been getting it done in recent weeks. So I'm not looking to force it here, especially with a banged up Josh Allen or possibly a backup of Case Keenum. So the spotlight for me, the health of the Bills' offensive production is really going to rise and fall with Josh Allen. And so Keenum, like I said, is a capable start, but he should be able to support Diggs in this game, in his revenge game. So I'm gonna lean Devin Singletary and Stephon Diggs in this one.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree with you on the Diggs play. There's no way that you would think that if Devin Singletary, particularly in a close game like last week against the Jets, a game they lost, that he would have saw, I believe, more than, I think, what he get 7 carries or 5 carries or something. And there's no Zach Moss, and you got a new running back in. If there was a time that I think that he would received close to 15, maybe 20 carries, I would have thought it would have been then. But as it's been the MO of Buffalo his whole career, really, he's their running game. And I don't see him sitting out. It's getting close to a little bit later in the year, later third of the year. I don't see him sitting out. And if he's really hurt, obviously he's going to sit out. But at 8.6K, I think Josh Allen is a fine play. He's averaging 30 points a game, 30 fantasy points a game. So for him to get to 30, 34, I don't think is a stretch. The Vikings, they're coming in at 23rd versus quarterbacks and 27th against receivers. So the matchup is right all the way across for Josh Allen to have a boom game. Again, they lost last week. So, obviously guys come in with a little bit more focus. I think they have a little bit more motivation to find themselves to the field. And Stephon Diggs is probably the best play out of this, out of all the fantasy viable out of all the fantasy viable guys, coming in at 8.3K. He's averaging 107 yards per game. Patrick Peterson is not supposed to shadow him. He's only projected for 17 projected snaps. So you don't necessarily have that to worry about. And this is not the Patrick Peterson that was in Arizona when he first got drafted. So even if he is shadowing him, I mean, Stephon Diggs is unstoppable. So and on top of that, this play actually feels closer to the Jefferson play. He only had last week. He only had 5 catches. He had 10 targets last week, but only had 5 catches. He was kept out of the end zone for the first time in 3 games. This feels like one of those big bounce back games for Stephon Diggs. Look for 8 to 12 catches, close to 150 yards, touchdown. I will be finding ways to jam him into a lot of lineups this coming up weekend. So he's probably one of my favorite plays on the entire slate, regardless of price.
All right. Looks like we got a question here.
Okay. No, I got it. So we got Daniel Jones, T. Law, Jacoby Brissett, or Baker Mayfield as a bye week replacement in a 2 QB league. Anthony, take it away.
Oh man, I'm looking at this, and honestly, that's a pretty good problem to have. For a 2 QB league, I like Daniel Jones a lot as a streaming candidate this week. Trevor Lawrence might not be bad going against KC. We're about to break that game down next, and so you'll hear our thoughts on that. But he's going to have the opportunity to get some points for you. Jacoby Brissett also will have the opportunity to get some points going against a high-scoring Miami squad that gives up a ton of points. And so Baker is the only one that I'm going to cut out here. Of those 3, any way you want to go is fine. Personally, I would probably lean, if we're going to go based on one of these quarterbacks, let's go based on weapons that they got. And I think I lean Jacoby in this one. But I wanted to say Daniel Jones, but I think I would go Jacoby in this one.
Yeah, I would go Jacoby just because of the game script, just purely on that. And obviously, he's shown a propensity to obviously run a little bit. The Dolphins have given up the most rushing yards now. That has a lot to do with Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson. They did have a day against them on the ground. Both of them went for over 100. But we're talking fantasy here, and we're talking guys that we would use to hopefully get you a win or possibly stream for maybe a little bit longer. So Jacoby Brissett is a guy. I'm looking at those other 2 matchups. If I had to give you a number 2, it would be Trevor Lawrence. He would be the guy that I would look at, and we're about to break that game down now. But the other 2 guys with Daniel Jones and Baker Mayfield, I just don't like Daniel Jones's matchup going up against the Houston Texans. I just don't feel like that's going to that game to me feels all about Dameon Pierce and Saquon Barkley, as they normally are with those 2 squads. I mean, ask Brandon Cooks how he feels about his quarterback in the passing game, in that situation. And also Baker Mayfield is just is a non-starter for me. So 1 Jacoby, 2 Trevor Lawrence. The next game we have here is Jackson. Did you want to add anything to that or no, Andy?
No, you covered it perfectly.
Okay. So the next game we have is the Jacksonville Jaguars going to Arrowhead Stadium. Over under is 50. Look, KC is favored by, I believe, 9.5. Anthony, is there any good plays? Is anything over there on the Jacksonville side that you like?
Yeah, I like a little bit here. Yeah, absolutely. So Travis Etienne, we'll start there. He's been a monster lately. 5 straight games with over 100 total yards, including rushing and receiving, right? And so he's needs to be heavily involved for Jacksonville to even have a chance here. I definitely like Travis Etienne this week as far as volume play. We'll see how he holds up, but game script is a thing. But luckily, ETN is dangerous coming out of the backfield as well, just as much as he is running between the tackles and trying to hit the outside, right? And so I like him as a fine play this week. I think he'll continue to be a monster. KC has been a little scary, but not a shutout on defense this year. Trevor Lawrence has been streamable all year. He's still looking to take that big leap into QB1 territory, but this is already far better than what we got out of him last season, right? And so against the middling defense, Lawrence should have a chance to keep up with his high-powered KC offense. He's definitely going to have the chance to, for sure. I don't see him getting it done personally, but I think he has the chance to, which makes him a fine, interesting play. He's going to have the opportunity. So this is a good chance for him to take a step forward and really get some solid production done. Pad those stats a little bit, which means Christian Kirk is in play, right? He's been a boom bust kind of matchup dependent kind of play all season long. I think again, Casey's going to put up a ton of points on Jacksonville, so I definitely see Jacksonville needing to throw the ball a little bit here. As previously mentioned, Jacksonville would need all stars on deck to show up in this one, which includes Evan Ingram as well. And so those are kind of the guys I'm looking for there. Zay Jones, Marvin Jones. If you're in a really deep league, but otherwise, I'm not looking to crush those guys into my lineup, and I'd rather let those guys fall by the wayside. They get what they get, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence is 5.4K on DraftKings. The matchup is there. The question is can he take advantage of it? He's had some pretty decent matchups, in the past, and he just hasn't been able to take advantage of it. He hadn't thrown multiple touchdowns in a game since week 4. So the question just becomes, is he going to be able, to take advantage? I believe they're 29th. Let me look here. They're 29th in fantasy points per game against wide receivers. So no, they're 30th. So the matchup is there. The question is just, like I said, is he going to be able, to take advantage of it? The Chiefs give up more passing yards per game than the Dolphins. They're 25th. So there's meat on this carcass. And like you said, Travis Etienne, the way to actually win the game, if we just take our fantasy hats off for a second, yes, the Chiefs do have they do the yards per game given up. It looks good on the surface, but they're giving up almost 5 yards per carry. So the key to the game is actually for me, it's on the ground. Now the days of us getting looks like Travis Etienne sub 7K, those days are over. He is now 7.1K. So now that runs into, is he going to be scripted out of the game? Now the Chiefs, they have given up the most receptions to running backs. They've given up 63. They have a 83% catch rate. So if they throw the ball to Travis Etienne, he's going to catch it. And with his ability, he can bust one. He might be able to bust 2. But for me, my favorite play of the game is I got a little Christianity at 5.9K. I got Christian Kirk in a lot of my pre-builds. He just keeps popping up. In the last 3 weeks, respectively, he's got 10 targets, 7 and 9. And the game script is you're probably going to see him somewhere close around those numbers again. And we know he's a track guy, Texas A&M. He could break one at any given moment. So he's a guy that I think is the safest, just given the price at 5.9K and the upside. He hasn't had a 100-yard game since week 1. I think he's due. And, for fantasy purposes, we don't care if the score is 20 to 3, 20 to 7, as long as they're throwing the ball. If you got Christian Kirk and he's getting those targets, and he's the number one, he's the number one flanker out there in Jacksonville. So I would like this game a lot more if it was in Jacksonville. Arrowhead customarily has been a really tough place to play, regardless of year, regardless of personnel, regardless of who they got, whether it's Christian Okoye or Derek Thomas, you name all the guys all the way up. They've just been tough. And so I could see this game going 31-3. I could just see this being, just a snoozer by the start of the fourth quarter. But again, if we're playing fantasy, I think my favorite play is Christian Kirk. He's going to probably be in. I probably got 60% exposure to him in all my roster pre-builds at 5.9K. You're just not finding a lot of value this week at the receiver spot. So he's probably going to be in a lot of my lineups because I can't guess, that it's going to be 31-3. You look at the over under, you go, okay, 50 points. They're supposed to win by 9. Christian Kirk should get a little bit of work, and that's the best you can do. So at least for me, Christian Kirk is probably my best play, but I wouldn't be upset at, an ETN lineup, 7.1K. Like you said, he's been crushing 100 yards, combined, and obviously he's had 100 on the ground, I believe, 2 straight. So I mean, this is a guy who feels in the matchup. If they're looking at analytics, if they're looking at the stats, and they're giving up 4.67 yards per carry is what they're giving up. So some of the worst in the league. There's only a few teams worse than that. I think I could see, if you got half a brain, that this is a game where Etienne should be able to get 20 to 25 carries this game and keep it close to the fourth quarter. But I mean, we'll see. So for me right now is Christian Kirk. That's my favorite play on the Jacksonville side.
I completely agree with you on all of that, including the playing in Arrowhead, and if this game was in Jacksonville, absolutely, for sure. And on the KC side of the ball, in that backfield, that's a wreck, right?
Oh my God.
CEH, McKinnon, Pacheco. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, thank you. Odds are one of them will have usable production, but I don't think it's worth a gamble. Patrick Mahomes, though, he's been destroying. He's the number 2 quarterback in fantasy football right now. The Jags D has been beatable, but they're not pushovers either. They do have quite a few picks on the season. I want to say 8.
Mm-hmm.
And so Patrick should be fine in this game, but be careful for some trap plays here and there. Juju and Kadarius Toney. Oh man, those are the 2 receivers we got to talk about, right? Juju 8 or more targets in all but 2 games this season. Runs a lot of Kelsey-like routes. He's been starting to look a lot like his rookie year Juju, which is a good thing, and just with a lot more muscle, which is nice. I mean, that's good, right? And so Toney should start getting some more work in this one. I like him for a baseline of 5 targets or so. Here, I think he's definitely going to get some scripted plays. I'm looking for him to start getting more and more involved in the offense in this one. I don't know that his end of the day production is going to be fantastic, but he's got the shot. If his price point is low, he might not be a bad DFS type of play as well. MVS and Hardman, definitely DFS types of plays, right? They've not disappeared, but it's kind of tough to gauge their utilization. And so I don't see Mahomes throwing 68 times again this week, but he has thrown for 34 plus times in every single game this season. So there's definitely plenty to go around. I think that you could see some auxiliary targets in this one too, making them not bad gambles for the DFS type of plays, but I wouldn't try to squeak them into a season-long roster lineup. Kelsey is really the guy, right? Kelsey's going to get his, targeted the 6th most amongst all pass catchers in the NFL. All. Number 6 in targets. That he's right up there with Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, all those guys. He's up there at 77 targets on the season so far. This guy's a monster. He's going to continue to get leaned upon. And so it does kind of limit some of the auxiliary production for some of those other guys. So for me, the spotlight, it goes to Kelsey. For obvious reasons. We just covered it. Kelsey. Kelsey's the guy, right? I do think ETN will also look really good in this game as well, though.
Yeah. I was looking at this, and first thing I looked at for Mahomes was his projected roster percentage. He's only projected for 7% ownership in large field tournaments. At 7.9K, I think there's a lot of that's a leverage play to be had. I do like Josh Allen, and I like actually Justin Fields a little bit better for different reasons. But I do like this price point for Pat Mahomes. He's averaging 28 points a game. Again, we're going back to that 4 times the salary. You can easily see him getting 32 points. He's thrown for 400 yards in back-to-back games. One of those games was against the San Francisco 49er defense. So though the Jacksonville Jaguar defense is really good, it's serviceable, but it ain't the 49er defense. So I think that, if you're looking to play, if you're looking to get some leverage, and that's all we're looking for in these, in these large field tournaments. But I think Pat Mahomes is actually good for head-to-head games, which are cash games and DraftKings, or in large field tournaments. I think he's a great play in both scenarios. My favorite play out of this matchup though is Juju. I think they found their wide receiver so far, unless Kadarius Toney's going to have something to say about that. I'm hoping he does, because I picked him up a couple weeks ago. But I think Juju is finally on the beat. He had 12 targets last game, 12 targets overall. He had over 100 yards against Buffalo and San Francisco. It's not going to get no tougher than that. Not the whole season. He won't face any other defenses that are tougher than that. So if you're looking, well, you can't say, oh, that was against the Dolphins, or that was against the Ravens. You can't say that. He played the toughest defenses, and when the ball got thrown his way, he produced. And at only 6K, he's a guy that I find in a lot of my lineups. He's in my pre-build as well. So right now I got Kirk. The most exposure that I have in my pre-builds right now is actually Christian Kirk and Juju Smith-Schuster. Surprisingly. But when I was crunching the numbers and just looking at game script, and I was looking at price point, those two guys were coming up the most. Kelsey's at 7.8K, and he's only averaging 22 points a game. He has crossed the 33 point threshold one time this season, but at 7.8K, that's just a little too rich for my blood at the tight end spot, especially with Joku hanging out there. I think that, if there's obviously you can't necessarily predict back-to-back games, right? I mean, not a lot of people saw the Dolphin and the Bear game going 35-32 last week, but it did, but if we're, like I said, we're going off the information that we have, we're going off of Vegas odds, and that's that's a lot of times that's the foundation that you do your build. So just looking at it, I think that at that price point at 6K, Juju Smith-Schuster is somebody that you should get some exposure to. So that's where I'm at with the Chiefs. So I do like Mahomes, and I like Juju Smith-Schuster. I think Mahomes is good for cash games, and I think he's good for general prize pool tournaments. And I also think Juju Smith-Schuster actually models the same as well. So those are my top plays for Kansas City.
Rock on, man.
Yeah, trying to rock on a little bit. Again, guys, we are Stat Lines Matter. If you're just tuning in, we are a weekly sports podcast with myself, Mark Stewart, and Anthony. Mark is not with us. He will be joining us very, very, very soon in the coming weeks. So we're looking forward to getting him back. So normally it's three of us, but right now you got the two Musketeers instead of the three. But you can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on TikTok and Facebook. And also you can download our podcast anywhere on all major platforms, at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So make sure you hit the like, make sure you hit the subscribe, and make sure you hit the follow buttons on all those platforms. Anthony, do you have any good starts and sits for this upcoming week? Because I need help.
Absolutely, man. Don't forget, though, you forgot our D'Artagnan behind the scenes there. Seth, our producer, he's with us today as well.
Yes.
You didn't get Seth the shout out.
Man.
And hey, it looks like we have a question here. I'm going to go ahead and read this question we got here. It looks like Caden, the Colts fan, wrote in. Hey, Caden, thanks for writing in, bud. Should I move Dalvin Cook and Dallas Goedert for Travis Kelce? Rob, what do you think about that, man?
Absolutely not. No, you do not do that for 1 second. Goedert averages, I believe, somewhere close to 8 targets a game. So no, he's not Kelce, but he's a nice 1B. So the production isn't so far, where Kelce's this great separator already right there. And Dalvin Cook, he is the workhorse back there in Minnesota. He's a guy that's going to get all the carries when they do run the ball, and they actually do throw to him some out of the backfield. Madison doesn't get the work that everybody thought he may get coming into the season. Dalvin, and especially if they get up, Dalvin Cook's going to get all those carries, and he still hasn't had his 4 touchdown game. That's coming, and it's good for you that it hasn't happened yet. If you do have on the Dalvin Cook side of this, because it's coming, and it's probably if it comes in week 14, 15, or I'm sorry, now it's 15, 16, 17. If it comes in one of those weeks, then you're probably going to advance or maybe win your whole league. So I would just say hold tight, and Goedert had a big week last week on Thursday night. I say stick with what you got. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I'm of the same mind. I mean, there's only a few situations where I could see you would really want to do that. I mean, if you're absolutely loaded at the running back position, you just don't need Dalvin Cook. Like, say you picked up a Kenneth Walker at the right time off waivers. You drafted ETN later. You got like 3 or 4 guys like that. Sure, why not unload, right? But otherwise, yeah, no. Goddard is more than serviceable as a tight end. He's a top 5 tight end on the season, I believe, right now. I'll bet that here in a second. Right now, I got Dalvin Cook's information. I'm looking up Dalvin Cook's schedule coming up, and yeah, he's got Buffalo, Dallas, New England, and the Jets coming up over the next 4 weeks. It's a pretty tough schedule leading up to the fantasy playoff time. But once we hit the fantasy playoffs, you're looking at Detroit, Indianapolis, the Giants, and Green Bay. I mean, I'm for sure starting Dalvin Cook in every single one of those games, and so I would love to have him on my roster for a fantasy playoffs. If you're not a fantasy playoff team and you're trying to squeak in and you just need some help right now, sure, maybe, but if you're sitting pretty good in the standings, I would stick with Cook and Goddard, just not a lot of reason to move on for that.
Yeah, that would be a nice haul for the other guy, in my estimation. So I would definitely hold what you got. Unless, like I said, you got, Derrick Henry and McCaffrey and you just loaded. But other than that, that's So, okay. So Anthony, we got another question. Okay. It says
we do.
From Seth.
Let's go.
All right. So what do you think about this trade? He receives more Dalvin Cook for DeAndre Swift and DeAndre Hopkins. Anthony, take it away.
Oh goodness. That's a tough one. DJ Moore, I'd like to get a lot more out of, and Baker's going to be starting back at quarterback. We all know Baker does not like throwing the ball to DJ Moore for some inexplicable reason. They're averse to each other for some reason. It's like magnets, but the opposite. And so, DeAndre Swift, on the other hand, we don't know how much we can trust him really the rest of the season. If you don't have Jamal Williams on your roster and just willing to throw out Jamal Williams in your lineup and wait for Swift to come back, they're saying that Swift might not be back to full health this entire season. And so what's his utilization going to look like? We might not get what we got at the beginning of the season, period. And so it's kind of a tough one on both sides of that, right? Personally, I like the Cook ad, but like I said, his schedule gets a little rough over the next few weeks. If you're sitting high in your league standings, again, yeah, sure, you can go ahead and go with the Cook side. But otherwise, D-Hop has been just a nuke. He's getting all the targets over the Cardinals passing game. He is the Cardinals offense right now. And so I might be tempted to stick with Hopkins and Swift and just kind of ride what I get out of Swift.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that. I'm not. So you would get DJ Moore and Dalvin Cook for. I mean, I would if you have Hopkins. Yeah, DJ Moore is to me is just, unless Baker Mayfield turns into a brand new guy, and you have to think, how bad is he for PJ Walker to come in and for all of a sudden DJ Moore to blow up? Because PJ Walker is, I mean, he, so I would definitely just stick with Cook and DJ Moore if
it's not enough guaranteed production for what you're giving up, I think.
Yeah, but it's not. But like you said, it's not necessarily a slam dunk. Because for the reasons that you mentioned above. So that's actually I feel like we're on the right path. But if Baker for some reason decides to, because what Baker likes is he likes to be the dark horse. He likes coming when everyone in the world doubts him, and for that 2-3 weeks he'll play like a decent quarterback. Now it's not sustainable, but for some reason I don't think Baker likes expectation per se. Like when everyone is expecting him to do well and expecting him to play like the Heisman Trophy winner and expecting him to play like the number 1 overall pick, he'll shrink. But if he's coming in for Tyrod Taylor, midway through, all of a sudden, he's looking like Oklahoma. So, that's to me, it's just, you don't want to be in business with Baker Mayfield. That's my thought process.
Fair enough.
All right. So Anthony, go ahead.
No, excuse me. I was just going to say, moving into our starts and sits for the week, right?
Yeah. Go right ahead. That's all I was going to do.
Yeah. So for our QB streamer for the week, I like Justin Fields this week because, hey, the dude had 178 yards rushing last week, and he's playing Detroit. So, yeah, what the hell? dial him up. You know,
I want to show you
get
my
that boy into your lineup.
That's what I have here. Okay.
You know, Tony Pollard against Green Bay. Look, I know Zeke's coming back. I still expect Pollard to light it off against Green Bay. Now, look, I know what you're all going to say, but Anthony, you know, the coach stated that he's limited to 30 snaps a game. I don't care. He's always been. He's a home run ability type of running back. I actually like it better with Zeke in the lineup because I think that, you know, you use Zeke to wear down the defense and let Pollard just pew, off he goes, right? And so against this Green Bay defense, look, I know we attacked them last week, didn't work out so well. I'm going to go for round 2 on this one. I'm not pulling back off the gas on this. At the wide receiver position, I mentioned it before. My boy DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, 4+ receptions in 5 straight games. He's earning his role in this offense now. He's averaging 70 yards a game over that span. Look, he's yet to score this season. I think this week is the week he finally gets it done. And then my tight end streamer for the week, I like Cade Otton against Seattle in this one. Well, rather over in Germany, right? This is the Munich game, but you know, with the rookie's relevance has just been creeping up since Brate's injury. He's steadily being trusted by Brady. You know, the Seahawks are one of the worst defenses against the tight end position, so I really like rolling with Otton this week.
Okay. All right. So you stole my thunder a little bit with the Justin Fields, but he's a guy that I think at 6.5K you're still getting a discount on. And over the past 3 games, the Bears are averaging 70 plays a game. That's the second fastest in the league, right up under the Chargers. So they found something with this up-tempo offense. In 3 straight games, he's had a rushing touchdown, and those are the things that we like to see. Especially running quarterbacks in fantasy football. If you're new to the game or new to this show, they will win you games. If you get a running quarterback, they will win you games. And that's 3 straight games he had a rushing touchdown. He only had 1 the whole year before that. And he's also had 3 straight games with 60% passer completions, a passer completing percentage. So they found something with this up-tempo offense. I don't think it's by happenstance. I think it's on purpose. So he's a guy that obviously that that I think that we can start to look at. I think this could be the last week that you see him under 7K. Again, we're attacking that Detroit defense. They're playing at home, and they're a young team. And a lot of times when you see a team lose a game close, it takes the wind out of their sails for the next week. I don't think that for this Bears team. I think that the arrow is pointing up. I think the momentum is up. I text my partner, Mark. I told my partner, Anthony, here during the week that I felt like the city has a different feel behind the Bears. And I think that we'll probably see another similar game where, Fields is getting 10 to 15 carries, pushing close to 70 yards a game, probably get close to 170 yards passing somewhere around there. And I think the production will be that'll pay you off, for that 4X number that we're looking at. My second play is Dameon Pierce. I like Dameon Pierce going up against that Giants defense. They're giving up 5.4 yards a carry. And most important, what do we like? We like that 4X factor. He's only 6.3K, unlike our friend Travis Etienne. So we're still getting a discount. So why would I play Travis Etienne, in a much tougher matchup when I can go $800 cheaper and grab, Dameon Pierce, who's still getting, last game he had 27 carries. Now he didn't score a touchdown, which is another thing that I like, because they're not going to score a touchdown every single game. So we look for some positive regression going against this Giants defense that's giving up over almost 5.5 yards a carry. So he's a guy that I'm looking. He'll be in 100% of my lineups, and he shouldn't. You never should be 100% exposure. But every lineup that I have, I'm not going to be able to get away from a running back that's 6.3K and getting 20+ carries a game. Well, it's actually 3 out of the last 4 games. One game, the game script went a little weird, but you get what I'm saying. So play Dameon Pierce, and my 100K guarantee is on the line.
And that's some incredible analytics right there. I love that.
And I like, I appreciate it. See, like that coming from you, that make me feel good on the inside. I got a little self-esteem, Anthony. Appreciate that.
Shouldn't, man. Your picks are awesome for sure.
And in my last pick, I'm gonna go tight end here, and I'm gonna go Njoku. I like Njoku a lot at 4.1K. If he plays, I like, and he says he's playing. He's coming off a bye week. I think he'll get out there. I think he will play. He's averaging over 6 targets a game. The Dolphins again are one of the worst defenses against the pass. his routes are similar to a receiver. He gets downfield, and those are the type of when you're playing receiver positions, you want guys that are getting downfield, making the big plays. And if you need no further proof from that, then think about Gabe Davis, a couple of weeks ago against the Steelers. Now, of course, that was a more aberration, but the guys that are running these Rondale Moore type of routes, these 4 and 5 yard, yeah, they'll get the catches. And if you're in a PPR league, that helps. But 160-yard touchdown, those are tournament type winning plays, and those are the plays that you really want to look for. So Njoku I think he's a tight end that runs receiver routes similar to a receiver that can pay you off. And if he doesn't play, I had to have a backup for you, and you can help me pronounce this, Anthony, if I'm wrong. My man Greg, is it Deluch? From Dulcich, Greg Dulcich. Okay, so Greg Dulcich is a guy who looks like he's coming on strong. They've been looking for some sort of receiver threat, and I think the game was 2 weeks ago, right? Because the Broncos were on a bye. You saw in the second half, Wilson started to look for him downfield. He had a 38-yard catch that almost, he fell probably a half an inch short. The week before he got a touchdown, the week before he had 9 targets. They're going up against the Tennessee Titans this week, who are 29th against the pass. This I believe is a play that we can be a little bit early on, but if we're a little bit early, we'll beat the field and we can get leverage. So I like Greg Dolce at 3.4K as a guy that you can go. Let's say Njoku doesn't play, you can plug him in for $700 cheaper. So those are my guys for the week. I was going to give you Amari Cooper, but I told you how much I liked Amari Cooper earlier, and I told you how much I like Christian Kirk. So you can probably already get a feel for my roster build this weekend. And so I'm not going to move away from those guys, but I want to give you something different that I didn't cover in the other, in the breakdown in the previous 3 games. So, guys, if there aren't any more questions, we can shut this thing down, man. Anthony, it was fun doing it again with you, doing the show with you again. Hopefully we can get Mark back soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get out of here, we still got 2 more pieces that we can go through. I still have my sits for the week, and then we have the hometown corner.
Oh yeah, get
the Bears versus Lions
in the hometown corner.
Yeah, for sure. And so for my sits for the week, I'm actually looking Dak Prescott's way against Green Bay. Despite the woes against the run game, Green Bay actually still maintains a decent pass rush and the pretty decent secondary. So I expect the ground game to kind of take precedence in this one. Lack of consistently reliable targets will continue to be a problem for them boys for now. We'll see what happens with OBJ. We've been hearing a lot of word from Jerry Jones about OBJ looking really good with that star on his helmet, right? And so we'll see what they end up doing with that. But James Conner at the running back position going against the Rams, I'm not looking to squeak him back into my lineup, rush him back in just yet. I kept him out last week. I'm going to keep him out again this week. It was nice to see him get back on the field after the 3-game absence, but he does not have a friendly schedule moving forward. And so I'd really like to see him kind of blow up and do something spectacular. And he'll have the chance here in this one with Kyler nursing a hamstring injury. So if they don't really, focus on James Conner in this game and really utilize him, I might look to shop him. I might look to move him, and just say, hey, look, he's going to have a guaranteed volume. Let me see what else I can get for him, for the rest of the season. Like I said, it's not a friendly schedule. At the wide receiver position, I like sitting Terry McLaurin this week going against Philly. Philly's been not a defense that you've been looking forward to playing any of your guys against this season. He's filled in admirably as a wide receiver 2 for you so far, but, seemingly no upside, right? I think his high was like a 15-point game on the season, something like that. He's a pretty consistent baseline though. And so Philly's just going to frustrate this guy all game long. This could be one of those games where he kind of duds out on you. And if you had him last year, that's just bound to happen, especially with Heineke behind the helm. And then at the tight end position, look, I know I talked him up a little bit last week, but this week I'm definitely benching Gerald Everett going against San Francisco here. The targets have been there, but the production has just not been. They try to utilize this guy, but something's been off with the Chargers, and we were hoping to see kind of a little bounce back last week. They still ended up winning the game, but Herbert still ain't looking right. And so against this matchup, I'm just going to look to stream the position elsewhere. I'd rather play a Cade Otton over a Gerald Everett this week. Yeah.
Okay. And go ahead.
I was going to say, do you want to move right into the hometown segment, or is there anything in there you want to address?
No. I was just going to say, I wish you would have told me to sit McLaurin last week. I was all over him. But that was the matchup that we should have played them. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the hometown corner, brother.
Yeah, for sure. So this week we got Detroit coming up, right? We're at home hosting the Lions, one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Look, you stole my thunder a bit earlier. I was going to say I'm really looking for hoping this game looks identical to what it looked like last week, right, against the Dolphins. And so you nailed it right there. I'm really thinking that this is going to end up being a very similar type of game. The only exception is I'd like to see a couple more targets go Chase Claypool's way, maybe 30, 40 more air yards added Claypool's direction. But otherwise, pretty similar production across the board. I don't think you're going to get 2 touchdowns on Cole Kmet. He's a touchdown dart throw. Could absolutely get it here. Might not. But either way, I think the offense is going to look very similar to how it looked last week. The Lions offense is, oddly enough, what started out on fire, they put up less than 16 points in 3 out of the last 4 games. And so this might actually be a game that the Bears could win this week. How crazy would that be?
Yeah. The Bears could take it down. They're favored, I believe, by 3.5. So,
wow.
What you know about that? What you know about the Bears? Is this the first time this year? I'm looking at it now. The Bears are favored by 3. The over-under is 48.5. So yes, so this could, I like the Bears in this game. For fantasy purposes, obviously, I wouldn't have went with Fields if I didn't think that or hope that Jared Goff could push the ball downfield. I mean, the Green Bay defense is obviously, it's been pretty solid the whole year. But I'm looking for Detroit to hopefully be able to give some resistance and have some back and forth. They're not going to give Tua type resistance, but I'm hoping that they can provide, maybe 20, 24 points and make this make this a little bit of a back and forth game, which is what all you're hoping for DFS purposes. But yeah, I think that Claypool, that was his first game, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you'll see more wave. They didn't trade for him not to throw to him, so I definitely think you'll see, and the city's excited for him. You think about Kadarius Toney's first game, and he's their second highest priced receiver on DK. He's priced higher than Van Scantling. So I don't, I don't if that's any indication, but the Chiefs gave up a decent price tag. They gave up, I believe, a 4th and a 3rd round pick to get Tony. I think you guys gave up a decent haul to get Chase Claypool. You didn't give that up to not include him in the game plan. So I think you could probably look for a lot more opportunities. He got 4. He got 5 targets this last game. I think you could probably look for upwards of 7 to 10. That's what I think.
I would hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told you last week, the Bears probably weren't going to win that game, but boy, was it going to be fun to watch. And sure as shit, it was fun as hell to watch. And so, this week I'm actually got some hope. After what we saw last week, I actually got some hope. This should be a good one. Really excited about it.
Hey, but then isn't that how the Bears do y'all? You get your hopes up,
just to have them dash. No, I know. We got plenty of scars on our hearts. I'll tell you what.
Okay, and I have a quick, small hometown corner for the Atlanta side of things. I've called for this, I believe, on our it was our second show, I believe. I've been calling for Desmond Ridder for about 4 weeks now, and I think that last week, I watched that game because I had fantasy implications. But I don't understand why this guy's averaging 173 passing yards per game. He's only thrown 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I don't understand why we're not, why the Falcons aren't going, switching gears a little bit and bringing Desmond Ridder in and go ahead and just seeing what they have, in their rookie QB. This is a guy who ran a 4.5 at the combine, has a big arm, obviously, led his league to the college football playoff, led his team to the college football playoff last year. He's got a winning pedigree, at I believe it's Conference USA that Cincinnati plays in, at a small conference, able to get his team to the big dance. I think that counts for something. I think you should at least see what you have in him. So I'm imploring Arthur Smith and Arthur Blank and all the authors, if any other author that got some power besides the coach and the owner, if any other authors have any influence, please just whisper in the ear and see if we can just can we get a couple of snaps for Desmond Ridder for the Atlanta Falcons, just to see what we have, in our rookie QB. That is my hope. That is my hope. So and hey, look, the game's tomorrow. Ain't no time like, hey, look, if you want to do it tomorrow, I ain't gonna be against it. Ain't no time.
National
like
TV,
that.
baby. Let's go.
Yeah.
I was watching the game last week for Atlanta, and I thought the same exact thing, man. I'm not gonna lie. I was watching the game, thinking the exact same thing. I was watching some of the film this morning, thinking again the exact same thing. We need to see Desmond Ridder back there because, good golly, Mariota is just not the answer.
Well, and you go, okay, if you say, okay, he's got mobility, Desmond Ridder at a 4.5. I mean, what are we talking about? Like, you're not sacrificing any of the mobility,
Sure.
and and if anything, you're gonna get the same. You'll get around about the same. I'm thinking. Like, I mean, you got 170, and the part of me was so annoyed that DJ Moore took his helmet off when he scored that touchdown, because obviously it made the extra point, a 48-yard extra point, and the Falcons end up winning that game on some fluke stuff. They supposed to have lost that. It's supposed to have been the third loss in a row, and they won that game by the field goal in overtime. And it just, to me, it bought unnecessary time for Marcus Mariota, and
that's exactly the problem, right? Is their record now with the win last week too, and then they're in division with the Saints, the Bucks, and the Panthers, so they're very much in this playoff picture here for winning the division, right? And so, like, can you really justify benching your starting quarterback at this point in time in the season? But good golly, would I love to see it, because they need to.
Yeah, I mean, look. They lost last week to the Chargers. They lost 2 of their last 3 games. You're not getting anything from your quarterback. I just think, yes, and you're in the hunt by virtue of being in a piss poor division. So, I mean, look, Desmond Ridder, I think, okay, let's say you want to win. Let's just say you actually want to win. Put Desmond Ridder in.
For sure.
That's how I feel. But anyway, man, we thank you guys for joining us once again. We're here weekly at 9:00 with me, my Mark Stewart, Anthony Lukasik, breaking down the NFL from the season-long side, from the redraft, and also from the DFS side. DraftKings is what I play. And we really enjoy doing the show. We thank you guys for joining us. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button. Follow us at statlinesmatter on all your social media platforms, and also all major podcast platforms, YouTube, Spotify, and also Apple Podcasts. Anthony, it was fun, man.
It's been great, man. Good episode. This was awesome.
All right, guys. Well, we will see you once again back at the same bat station, same bat time, 9:00 on Wednesday. Tell a friend. Don't forget about my 100K guarantee. Okay? Until then, we'll see you guys next week. This is Stat Lines Matter.
Deuces.
Peace.